Welcome back, I am the Executioner, and today we're going to be talking about an RNN stream. So, basically, Rational Outlaw did a video stream where he reacted to my video with 4 other people. Demon was one of them, and I wanted to clarify some points here. I wanted to clarify some things. Demon made some points that are actually very good points, and I give him total credit for this. I am not saying you should go out there and be a sovereign citizen and just drive on roads. No, I'm not saying that whatsoever. As it currently exists, driving is a privilege. Demon, you are totally correct on that. But what I am saying is, if we have this concept of a common road, right? In the Constitution, you are guaranteed the right to travel. You're given the right of movement. You can go anywhere you want, pretty much. And restricting a mode of travel does infringe on a right. You can walk. You can ride a bicycle. However, this is a mode of transportation that is far efficient than any of those. And to limit it somehow is, for example, to limit your right. It limits your right to your own property. For example, you have this car, right? You own this car. You should be able to go where you want with it. You haven't injured anybody. All this is based on is the potential to injure. However, if somebody does get into a car accident, right, and injures somebody, that's a case for the courts. Now, what I am arguing from, in a libertarian sense, in a libertarian society where we have either a minimal government or no government, common roads would be built by individuals coming together and holding that property in common. On the issue of private road, yes, that would be a privilege because the property owner determines those set of rules on which they allow you on their property. Third, okay, let's say this. Let's say a community builds a road. This is a private community. They've come together and signed a contract, right? And part of that contract is having a voluntary driver's license, right? That is an agreement. That's a contract. Everybody signs that contract, and that is totally agreeable. If they want to say to people who are outsiders, well, we don't want you on this road because you do not have the voluntary driver's license, you could maybe have a day pass or get this license here, then I'm totally for a licensing system. However, if we're going to hold property in common, right? I am not for a licensing system. I think the DMV is one of the most bloated government services that's ever been invented. Now, there are issues of roads and safety and a bunch of that stuff, but be honest, do you really think licensing prevents people from doing dumb stuff on roads? How many people have a driver's license in this country who are totally unqualified to even drive? So you have a system that can't even vent out the people who shouldn't be on the roads, right? While you have people who actually can drive, they're excellent drivers, but just because it expires, they can't drive. Licenses don't stop car accidents. They don't stop people from doing stupid things. They don't even stop people from drinking or driving under the influence. So what I am saying here is under common land, right? People have a right to travel, right? They have freedom of movement that's afforded to us in the Constitution, right? And it has been determined by the courts that it does not apply to driving. However, if you look into it, think about it. If you have the right to walk wherever you want on common land, you can ride a bicycle, right? Even in some jurisdictions, you need a permit to ride a bicycle. That's actually a real thing, by the way. All these modes of different transportations, right? You can ride a scooter without a license. You don't need a license, a motorcycle license, to ride a scooter in some areas, right? You don't need a license to drive farm equipment on public roads in some areas, right? So you've made so many exceptions to that rule that it makes no sense to have the licensing system if there are so many ways around the licensing system. And even then, you can put a motor on a bicycle. You can put a motor on a bicycle if it's under a certain amount of cc's. You can still basically ride a motorcycle. That's what motorcycles started out as, bicycles that were modified with motors on it. And you can ride it around wherever, depending on your state. So it makes no sense to have this motorcycle license if people can just get around it by having just an engine that's a little bit less of the cc's required to be recognized as a motorcycle. Even then, in some jurisdictions, you can actually ride an ATV on public roads. No license required. Now, that depends if you're going to the woods, for example, but they're not going to stop you from going to the grocery store, for example. They're not. They have better things to do than follow this guy around who's on an ATV, for example. What I'm for is a free market solution, where if we're going to have licenses, right, then there are different firms that actually license you, for example. There are competing firms, not just the DMV, for example. I'm for this for all government agencies, essentially, privatizing them, making it so they're accountable to the actual market. Think about it. The DMV issues someone a driver's license, right? And they absolutely cause a massive pileup. And they were there to vet out people who could be a possible danger to other people. They failed in their job. However, in a free market, if one firm fails at vetting someone out, then another firm can step in and actually fill the role of vetting people out more properly. I am not against driver's insurance whatsoever. I think insurance is a useful thing. However, I don't think you should mandate that insurance. If somebody gets into a car accident, right, screws somebody up, and does not have insurance, right, then it is up to the person that initiated the accident to pay those fees, to pay the damages, and to do so. That is out of their own decision, right there. If they decided not to have insurance, then they need to bear the consequences of not having insurance. Therefore, they need to pay it out of pocket. I don't believe mandating insurance is going to solve everything. Okay? I don't believe that you should mandate insurance. Look at New Hampshire, for example. New Hampshire, you don't need insurance. You don't. That's one of the things about New Hampshire. You don't need insurance. However, you do need to pay if you get into a car accident out of pocket. Are there some individuals who would try to get out of paying things? Yes, but that happens under insurance as well. Are there some people who may not be able to pay out of pocket? Yes. However, it would be hard-pressed to make that argument when insurance already is quite expensive. If somebody is not able to pay out of pocket, then how could they pay for insurance? So what I'm saying here is that insurance needs to be a free market game here, like roads, like driving, for example. I don't believe you need government to make this work. I believe that there are private, public, etc. If we have a common road, then people will pay out of pocket. They may have insurance. It's up to them. However, on a private road, you could mandate insurance because it is private property. That's the difference here. I think you haven't actually read into what libertarians think about roads. I don't think you've actually read into libertarian theory on how we can have privatized roads, a privatized driving system, etc. So I think that's a little disingenuous on their part, Demon's part. I think that to say that, oh, it's like giving everybody a gun. Okay, think about it here. A car, like a gun, is a tool, right? Some people are going to misuse it. Some people aren't. Does that mean we ban cars? Does that mean we restrict guns to the extent that we have cars, right? Absolutely not. What I'm arguing here is for a freedom position that can be balanced by a free market. For example, natural rights. Your right to travel cannot infringe on somebody's life, right? But until that happens, right, an accident, you can't justify taking that freedom away. Just as you can't justify taking away guns just because they have the potential to hurt somebody. The potential is not in this equation here. Now, if you want to argue drinking and driving, yes, that's a violation of the non-aggression principle because you are impairing yourself. You are not in your right state of mind to actually make a conscious decision of things. And in fact, you are putting people's lives at risk to the point where it borders into aggression. You make that deliberate choice. So I am not for people getting on the roads drunk. I am not for that. On a private road, if somebody is known to be drinking a lot, right? They've had many drinking and driving incidents, let's say. Then it will probably boil down to the property owner. Once you enter that road and you actually talk to the property owner, then they're probably going to recognize, oh, shit, this guy gets into a lot of drunk driving crashes. I don't want him on my road because he could crash into another person and kill them, and I have some liability here. On a common road, right, people could be made aware of different people who have drink and drive, etc., and people could avoid that person, right? Their picture could be up. The internet's a great resource for that. I don't necessarily think we need a state to sort out drinking and driving issues. Nor do I think drinking and driving laws have solved the issue to a large degree. There are many articles by the Mises Institute and the Cato Institute that have found that drinking and driving laws, draconian ones, don't actually reduce the amount of people who die each year by drinking and driving. And even then, if somebody gets into the accident, then that's going to be up to the court system. If we're going to have a libertarian society, that's a rights arbitration thing. You can look that up. That's David D. Friedman's idea. Walter E. Block has a similar idea. And if we're going to have a minimal government, we can base our court systems more on what they used to be versus what they are now. That's my position on that. I don't think everybody should get drunk and go drive, for example. But I think you're not giving a lot of people credit because the majority of people do not drink and drive. The majority of people don't kill other people on roads, for example. There are a lot of car accidents, but the majority of people don't get into those car accidents. So saying the potential danger is enough to warrant this type of system, a state system, is just fallacious. It's an over-precautionary principle. We can have a precaution principle. We can have a private way of doing things. That's totally fine. But when you have the state take over these functions, that gets a little bit hazy because they usually go overboard here. If you want a minimal government, a minarchy to do it, I have no problem with that. That's what I would settle for as a libertarian. I'm a narco-capitalist, but I would settle for a minarchist situation here. However, I'm against giving the state an avenue to expand their powers. That's what this boils down to. Restricting freedom of movement among people. Restricting freedom of movement among peaceful people, in my opinion, is how you grow a totalitarian state. So that's just my opinion. I watched the RNN stream, and I think there's a lot of points that I didn't get to in that video. One, because my internet is just not that great, and I have a data cap on it. I live out in the middle of nowhere, essentially. I live in Maine, for God's sakes. There's mountains around us. So I had to keep that video short. However, I think that they did have some good criticisms, good points, and I just wanted to clarify on that. If you guys liked the video, please subscribe, ring the bell, and remember to stay free.